Okay, in this video, let's cover image generation. This is one of my favorite skills to visually, literally show what the brain is capable of, and also a great introduction to some of the more geeky sides of using the brain and this technology really well. So it's a great way to sort of mix together automation and the brain. Because one thing you're going to need here is an API key, which sounds scary, but an API key is basically just a password. APIs are how computers talk to computers. You may have heard the acronym MCP. We'll worry about that a different day. Model Context Protocol, invented by Anthropic. It's kind of a plain English wrapper over an API so that you can talk in English and all the geeky code gets worked out behind the scenes. Well, we don't need to worry about the geeky code here either, because that's all baked into the skill that you get as a member. All you have to do is say, hey, Claude, let's use the generate image skill, and off we go. But to use the skill, you just need to set up your API key. So you'll go to fal.ai. This is a site I use a lot. This is fantastic for creating different types of image. They have over 1,000 image models behind the scenes. And there's actually a really nice thing in here called a sandbox, where you can generate the same image across 4 or 5 or 6 different models at the same time, so you can see how the different models perform. To get an API key, once you set up your account, you will need to fund it. I think $10 might be the minimum, maybe 5, I don't know. I think I threw 20 in there. I still haven't used the whole thing. I've been using this for months. So it's very, very cheap. Money goes a long way here. Click on your little logo and then API keys to get to this screen and add a key. Once you've generated a key, you generally, in most situations, you don't get to see that again. So you go save that somewhere. The place to save it is this thing called an env file. I'll talk more about that in a second, but an env file. And if you really can't find that, although I think I give you a template in the brain, just ask Claude. Claude, Mike told me I need to save this to an env file. Do I have an env file? Oh, where is it? How do I do this? Don't paste your API key into the conversation in the brain. Don't paste that into Claude. If you really need to and you can't find it anywhere, you say, hey, Claude, can you create a placeholder key? Mike said I need to use FAL_KEY. Copy that, paste that in. Can you add a placeholder value for that key? So this bit on the left is called the key. This bit on the right is called the value. You just say, can you create a placeholder value, create that in my env file, and then open that for me in Cursor or in Anti-Gravity, whatever code editor you're using. It will then open that file. You paste in your key, everything's happy. Then you can use the skill, and most of these images cost 2, 3, 4 cents for each image. Nano Banana Pro is a little bit more expensive. Some of the newer models can be a little more expensive, but if you go into the interface in FAL and you go into that sandbox area, it will tell you roughly what these images are going to cost. Just wondering what I've been playing with recently and if that was me or the kids. You put your instructions in down here, tell it the aspect ratio, how many images from each model you want, and you can edit this list and add and remove things from here. But then you can see what all the different models did, and then you can say to the brain, hey, I really like the way I want to use this model for this type of image that we're doing. I want to use this model. Make sure you use this model, please. Please update the skill that Mike gave me to use this new model. So again, you don't have to worry about any code. You do all of this through natural language. And then all you have to do is throw some imagination at it and describe what it is that you want. I'll give you a cheat code for that as well, and get a really amazing image back. So you can start by just saying or writing a sentence or two. Behind the scenes, baked into the skill, I have what's called a JSON file. So this is just a geeky way to structure information to make sure that we have the same structure every time. The benefit of that is that if you want a series of images, so you would have noticed, I'm guessing by now, that on the final slide of every single one of these presentations, I have a watercolor, mostly orange and blue with a bit of purple, and it's the same watercolor design every single time. And that's because I'm using this configuration file in this particular geeky language, JSON. When I ask for an image, there's maybe a sentence or two that goes in about the description of the image I want, but then all of this stuff, the theme, the colors, the elements, how to do it, that is a consistent theme that uses that same style and the same layout every single time, which means I get really, really similar images back every time. The other thing I'll do here is I will let the brain write the prompt or write the image description, because it has seen millions of these and it's much, much better than I am at writing out that description for an image model like all of the models inside of FAL. So you don't even need to write the thing. You just need to know that there is a Lego piece called get brain to write prompt for image model. And that will generally get you better results than just you giving it one or two sentences. What I'm using it for, what members are using it for, all kinds of images, blog posts. I use it for stuff inside Circle sometimes, course slides like the stuff that you're looking at right now, LinkedIn images. So I've got a completely different design, completely different theme that I use for LinkedIn images and carousel stuff there. Client reports, visualizations in a client's brand color. So I've got a file in the brain that tells the brain the main brand and the accent color for every single client and customer that I care about creating reports for. You could do that for all of your clients. Even if you've got 100 clients in your MCC, you could create a config file for all of those so that their reports are always in their colors, not always in yours. Anything you can think of, you can use this for. Kids' birthday invites, great, use this. There's a whole bunch of models, like I said, over 1,000 in FAL. 3 that I used a lot, Nano Banana Pro. This may have changed by the time that you watch this video, but Nano Banana Pro, which is I think Gemini version 3 behind the scenes, fantastic with text and infographics, that type of image. I've been using this Seedream version 4.5 a lot recently for the watercolor stuff, for photorealistic stuff. I think that costs 2 or 3 cents an image, and then Recraft for a few other bits and pieces. But try it. Go into FAL, go into that sandbox area and try a whole bunch of models and see which ones you prefer, because it is a lot of personal choice here. And then just tell the brain, I want to use this particular model. Even if you can barely spell the model name, just take a screenshot of the model, drop the screenshot into the brain, and off we go. Let me just talk about the ENV file, which stands for environment, the ENV file. So this is a file that lives inside the brain. It's in the root of the brain, which means if you're looking at that file structure, it's not embedded in another folder. It's in the home directory, if you like, of the brain. That's what root means. And this file never gets sent up to GitHub. So we've talked about Git and GitHub in earlier videos. Go back and watch those if you want the refresher. But essentially, this is just where we back up all of our files, all of our data, all of our code, all of that context and images and blog posts. We back it up, we save it to GitHub. But this file does not go on GitHub because it contains your secret passwords. So it stays down on your local computer. There's something called a git ignore file. You can have a chat with the brain about that. But the git ignore file says exactly that. Just ignore this file when chatting to Git. Remember, Git saves stuff locally first, and then GitHub is where all of this stuff lives in the cloud. So you have some keys, some passwords that are in your ENV file. You can have loads and loads of different ones there, but git ignore makes sure that that does not disappear off to GitHub, stays on your computer, and you have one of these API keys for every service or every computer, essentially, every application that you need it. So if you're doing stuff with Stripe, maybe that's probably not the first API key that you do. That's why I like starting with FAL, because if things go wrong, it's going to cost you 3 cents. If you start with your bank or Xero or Stripe, it's probably not going to refund all of your customers all of the money they've ever spent with you, but why take that risk? And the Google APIs are much harder to set up. You need a Google Cloud project. There are 4 or 5 of these various secrets and keys. Don't start there, please. Start with FAL, get used to an API key, and then move on to something a little easier. So I use this for, all kinds of stuff. My email service, all of the Google stuff, which is not the first thing that I set up. Maybe best if I don't list them on a publicly available video. Lots and lots of different services that I use it for. There's just a few there. It's super, super useful. Again, I know it seems scary and geeky, and like this doesn't seem like something I would ever be doing. This seems like something the IT department should look after. But once you're able to have your computer talk to other computers, now you can basically get data and information and context from all of these other places just by having a chat to the brain. So it becomes incredibly powerful and incredibly, incredibly useful. That's the end of this little section, just a sample of some of the skills that are in the brain. I'm not going to supply you with hundreds and hundreds of skills in the brain. I'll give you a couple of dozen to get you started, to understand what skills are. And then from here, what I really want you to do, remember, I'm giving you a sapling, and I want you to grow the tree your way, to grow the tree that you want, that's useful for you in your business, in your situation. So what I really want you to do is to create some skills. What skills? It's entirely up to you, but I would be picking on stuff that you do. Start with once a week, anything that you do once a week. And this will become quickly anything you do once a month. And start by just having a chat to Claude. Ask Claude, just ask Claude. I'm going to get that t-shirt created. Just ask Claude and say, okay, Mike has challenged me to create a skill for something I do regularly. I don't know where to start. Interview me, please, Claude. Ask me some questions. I can't think right now what my most frequent tasks are. So ask me a bunch of questions. And through that process, you'll go, oh, of course, yeah, I've got this thing that I do. Hey, Claude, is this a good candidate for creating a skill? No? Okay, let's move on to something else. You build the intuition over time, but start with something. Pick something that you do once a week and have a chat with Claude and say, okay, I'm thinking of building a skill for this. Can you help? And all a skill is, again, think back a few videos. It is just a collection of files. Most of that is a markdown file, your skill MD file. It's a big ass text file, basically. And then there might be some script snippets in there. There might be some examples, some reference files, all bundled and packaged up together into this thing called a skill folder. That's it. There's a bunch of examples on Anthropic's site, front-end design, super, super useful skill. And just play with it, experiment. So you probably have SOPs in your business, right? SOPs are skills for humans so that your team are able to follow the checklist and do the thing the same way every time. And sometimes in SOPs, you want someone to do exactly the same way every time. And sometimes you'll have a step saying, think about this, do the best thing for the customer at this point. We don't have rules for this. Here are some guidelines to point you in the right direction. You do what you think. Skills can do both. They can write code, Python code, whatever it might be, to analyze data, to build those charts that we talked about with the CSV. And they can reason and make decisions and think about what they need to do next, about what the best way to solve the problem might be. You get the best of both worlds packaged up together in this thing that you can run whenever you want and just say, hey, Claude, run that skill, do that thing, write the blog post, create the image, whatever it is that you need. I don't know what your day-to-day tasks are, so I can't tell you exactly what skill to build. That's the flexibility of it. You just got to play. You know the Lego bricks. Now it's up to you. What do you want to go build with those Lego bricks? Go have fun. Go play. Go experiment. It won't be quite as fun as building a car out of Lego, but I don't know. If you're saving 10 hours a week in your job, maybe that's more fun. I don't know. Entirely up to you. See you in the next section where we will talk about deploying and making your content, making the output that you're creating, making that available to whoever you want, anywhere online, if that's what you want to do with it. I'll see you in the next section. Bye for now.